Hello there, and welcome to the Impact Zone podcast. We are back here to talk again more TNA wrestling shenanigans. And today, I guess, I want to talk about the issue that I sort of have with the perceived inevitability people see for wrestlers going to WWE. It's one of those things that whenever somebody becomes popular, now we've got several examples of this, but especially with TNA, but I don't really. We all know the people that are there that could go to WWE, and a few people in the past have gone from TNA to WWE, but there hasn't been a lot of besides one or two, I would say, for the most part, a lot of TNA made stars that have really made it in WWE. Now, of course, those two or three people that I'm talking about, AJ Styles, pretty big name, and maybe some people have heard of him. I don't know. Samoa Joe, maybe some people have heard of him. He's doing something in AEW now, I think. I don't know exactly what he's doing over there, but yeah, he's doing some good stuff over there in AEW. From what I hear, I'm not really following AEW. I don't particularly follow WWE very much either. But I do hear little things about what's happening in WWE and AEW and things like that. But anyway, of course, Joe Hendry, a very big name. Oh, I was talking about names that have already made it. Sorry, so I was about to just jump to Joe Hendry, who's about making some waves and whatnot. So, but yeah, number 3, I guess, is LA Knight. I don't know that they're. Well, I guess you could count Xavier Woods, whatnot. So not that he really was a big name in TNA. He was just kind of a tag team guy there. He was really getting his foot in the door. Though, again, you could count Mickie James because she was in TNA before she went to WWE. But again, she was there for some guest appearances, I guess, or whatever. She was there for a few months or something, I think, for the most part. Maybe she was there for longer. I can't really remember. I didn't watch the very, very early days of TNA and whatnot. Though I would love to go back and watch as much of it as what I can, but I want to do that with you guys here on stream one of these days when we get the time to go back and review all of the old TNA stuff, or at least, do a proper, sort of review of it every single week. What did I think, not just little bits and pieces or whatever. But anyway, so yes, there have been a few people that have gone to WWE and transitioned into a more successful role. There have been a few people that have transitioned to WWE and not found much success. You could look at Chris Harris. You could look at Monty Brown. There's been people that have gone over there to go and work backstage. Though I should say Bobby Roode, I guess, as well, because Bobby actually had a pretty decent run in NXT. Unfortunately, he didn't have much success on the main roster, and it sounds like he's now retired. So, but he's had a great career and a great wrestler, and that. So he's definitely a Hall of Fame worthy wrestler and performer and whatnot. So again, he had success over there in WWE. So we definitely should talk about him. We've talked a little bit about Jordynne Grace in the past going over there to WWE, but she hasn't made nearly as many appearances as what Joe Hendry has. The Rascals, Wes Lee in particular, has been in the WWE system for quite a while now. Almost as long as what he was in TNA Impact back in the day. It was at the time that he was there, but he's doing some good stuff and starting to get the ball rolling there too. My issue isn't with people. Oh, I should talk about Chelsea Green. I just about forgot she was in TNA back in the day and did some stuff and then went to WWE. There's been a few. Oh, Mia Yim. Now that I'm thinking about it, like she came into TNA and did some stuff and then went over to WWE. She's not doing a huge amount over there right now. But again, like you see a few of these people here and there that have gone from TNA, even like, people that made one or two appearances there, like Low Key. Oh, well, Low Key was only in WWE like for a little while. Really, he really didn't do much over there. They didn't really treat him like anything. But he was a big part of early TNA. He returned to TNA back in the day and whatnot, and did a lot more stuff after his WWE run and whatnot. Because again, there's not many other options at the time. Ring of Honor was kind of there and whatnot, but you still need more than one place a lot of the time to go. You need many dates to fill up your calendar, and many high paying dates to fill up your calendar properly and actually get paid decently well. But anyway, yeah, as I was sort of saying, I don't want to go through too much of it because again, I'll probably miss even more names and have to keep going back and forth and whatnot. But my issue isn't with these people wanting to go to WWE. Like Wesley and Zachary Wentz, they had their opportunity to go to WWE, and like a few other people have gone to WWE or AEW. I guess that's the other issue there as well. But like anyone who's leaving, like Deanna Prazo, they've lost a few talent to AEW, Brian Cage, this and that, here and there, whatever. W. Morrissey, although W. Morrissey, you could argue he was really a WWE guy, but realistically, I feel like his resurgent era really, like, his better work was in TNA. You go and watch his TNA stuff compared to what he's doing in AEW. TNA treated him like a top guy. Like, for the most part, they treated him like one of the big deals of the company because, again, they didn't have a lot of guys there. And so they were like, well, we can build this guy up and we can use him and we can do stuff with him. And, if he's willing to put in the work and whatnot, we'll work with him. But it was short-lived. Whatever, he went and did his own thing. Now, again, if these guys want to pursue, well, bigger opportunities, that's fine. But the thing is, I think that that's not for everyone as well. So I don't like that whole, it's an inevitability that these wrestlers are inevitably going to go to AEW or WWE. Yes, you can go to AEW or WWE and make more money. But the problem there is the work schedule. Now, again, I think a lot of wrestlers have a lot going for them in a lot of ways, and they like to have a lot going for them in a lot of ways. A lot of the TNA wrestlers supplement themselves with a lot of indie dates and whatnot. You can see them on some of these other PWG, blah blah blah, Bloodsport, whatever. All these other. I'm not going to go through all the indies. We'll be here all day for me trying to name every indie, and I'll forget like 90% of them probably anyway because I don't know that many of them. And I like, especially like just trying to name them off the top of my head. But anyway, like they're still doing those dates. The thing is, like, still, like, TNA is mostly taped, so you have one weekend here or one weekend there or whatever else it is, where you've actually got to go to a taping or whatever it is, or a pay-per-view and a taping, and then do your thing for those couple of nights. But then, hey, the rest of your week is pretty much free, and whatnot, and you can take other dates with smaller companies and whatnot, or if, hey, you want to do something else, hey, well, let's just discuss it and let's get it all, approved and discussed and blah, 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 all this sort of stuff. That's probably a lot of what was happening with the WWE relationship there. They were just trying to work it all out and say, hey, well, we still want Joe Hendry on our show, and they want Joe Hendry on your show, and, well, we've got to satisfy both, and, this sort of thing. So, we've got to do our best to, not just he's now pseudo working for you or whatever, or whatnot, like, he's our contracted talent, so, we still have contract over him until until that contract expires. And some people are saying, he's going to go to WWE. Well, maybe he will, and maybe he won't. Because, maybe he'll just do a few things in WWE. We don't know what he's going to do. Yes, he might go to WWE, but the idea that it's inevitable that he's going to WWE or whoever's in TNA or whoever's anywhere at any point, whatever, is going to WWE isn't certain. And that's the thing about TNA too. TNA is a good stepping stone for a lot of people. And that is a good role or a good spot to go for people who want to either get, noticed by WWE or AEW. Because again, like the only real way, in my opinion, that you can build equity as a wrestler is by getting on that proper national and international stage. And that's pretty much TNA is one of the smallest places that you can get to do that. And still, that's a huge, huge, and I want to emphasize huge even more, huge step up from what the indies are. Because the indies, though sometimes some people do stand out, but that's usually just to the people that are actually scouts and whatnot, things like that, who are looking specifically for, talent that are up and coming and whatnot. And oftentimes they'll say, hey, that kid's on the rise, we'll let them simmer for a few months or simmer for a year or whatever else it is, blah, 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 or even for a few years. We want to see their progress. We want to see them, make some waves and get a bit more time out there and make sure that we don't have to do too much work when they come to WWE or whatever, AEW. We have our performance center here, sure, but, we don't want to have to do too much to have to, acclimate them to the WWE system or whatever else it is. So, again, you've got to look at it like this is an opportunity for some people, but some people want to come to TNA as a destination because, hey, they think, well, that's good enough for me. It's a lot of work to maintain going to TNA, especially if you're from the UK or from Mexico or from Canada or from somewhere else, from Australia, from Japan, from wherever, whoop whoop, Timbuktu, who knows where you're from, India, China, wherever, Russia, Afghanistan, Sudan, wherever, it's a lot of work. You've got to be able to get into the US for the most part, because most of the dates and most of the towns and whatnot that TNA, WWE, and AEW are running are all in North America. So you've got to be able to get your passport, you've got to be able to get your work visa, whatever, all of that stuff. You've got to be able to come over and actually work in the US, and then you've got to be able to get to the point at which the promoters and whatnot and the people that are actually writing the checks or whatever else it is are interested or are convinced that, hey, it's worth, putting you and signing you on the roster for a decent period of time. And again, you've got to be able to convince, or you've got to be able to get over enough for the writers to start going, you know what, we'll give you a little bit of a push, or you've got to start that process of saying, hey, how can I start, doing stuff here and get over and actually start, doing stuff and really make this my home, or, I don't really care. I'm just here to, do my best and try to get noticed by WWE. That's the individual's choice. Is this your destination, or do you want to go higher? Because the thing is, yes, it is a lot more money, but it is a lot more dates. Now you pretty much can't do, indie dates and whatnot, because WWE will control, for the most part, what dates you're doing and everything else for the most part. So, you have to know, okay, well, I don't want to do that. Look at Will Ospreay. Not that he's the best example, but he knew, and a lot of other people knew, hey, that lifestyle just isn't for me. I don't want to do that much. It's fine for me to be doing something once a week or twice a week or whatever else it is and whatnot. But the thing is, you know, I want to have a life outside of this sometimes in some ways or whatnot, or I need other things in my life I need to be able to do. I need to be able to go to the gym at my own time. I need to be able to eat at my own time. I need to be able to do my regimen the way that I want to do it, not to just, follow the, you know, WWE way of this is what you do. No, this is what you do. This is what we tell you to do. And that's something that I do notice about WWE. A lot of the things that happen in WWE seem very similar. A lot of the angles, a lot of the characters, a lot of the wrestlers look very similar. Like, they all look very cookie cutter in some way and somewhat generic in some way. They have a more generic look to themselves than what a lot of more of the indie guys sort of do. They have a much more broad, sort of like strokes of looks in the indies, but a lot of people tend to start getting on steroids and whatnot, that sort of thing, to try to build muscle and to try to make themselves look like a WWE superstar so that they can get into WWE because they can see, oh, the WWE likes people that look like this because those are mostly the people that they hire. So therefore, I've got to have that sort of look to sort of fit in there and to do what I want over there. But when you get into wrestling, again, it's one of those things that there is so much commitment, even from, the indies to more of the bigger indies like the NWA or New Japan or something like that, whatever it is. You know, you can dedicate your whole life, 7 days a week, 12 hours, 16 hours a week, whatever else a day to, to wrestling, to just, going to the gym, eating right, whatever else you have on the side. Maybe you have like 3 or 4 other indies that you're working for or whatever else it is, you know. But again, the WWE isn't the ultimate goal for every single wrestler. We've seen this with, the things that have happened in TNA over the years. Abyss stayed there for many years. Yes, he, flirted with like taking an offer here or there or whatever it was a few times, but in the end, he ultimately stayed, and that's the decision making that goes into it. Yes, somebody could be courted or whatever else you want to, requisitioned or propositioned or whatever to say, hey, come into WWE, we're going to do this or we're going to do that or whatever else it is. This is what we're looking for. This is the way we're trying to do this thing or whatever. Okay, cool. We're going to do this. We're going to bring in Sting. Oh, I guess you could talk about Sting, but yeah, we're not going to talk about that because he's a WCW guy. But again, but yeah, like you can talk about the resurgence of Sting in TNA, like his WWE run was like 2 matches, and I know it could have been more, but hey, it was 2 matches, and he lost both of them. Now, the second one could be somewhat understandable in some sense, saying, well, especially with what happened in the match, but hey, this was a championship match, and I understand that they wanted to build Rollins and they wanted to do this thing, and the finish probably was for Rollins somehow to lie, cheat, steal, whatever it was, to find a way to become victorious and beat Sting off effectively. But, still, that's neither here nor there, really. I'm not going to dive too deep into that. But anyway, that is something that just came to my mind just then. But anyway, like, that's all I mean. I just don't like this way that people will be saying things about Joe Hendry going to WWE. What if people want to see somebody in WWE? That's great, that's fine. But you've got to recognize that they're not in WWE, and if you really want to watch them and see what they can do, right now you need to tune into TNA, right? Okay, so and that's the thing. People will always, like, for a few years ago, and whatnot, even like last year or even just before Joe Hendry really like exploded, people were saying, TNA's got no one interesting, blah, 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 this, that, whatever, blah, blah, blah. Or they wouldn't even be paying any attention to TNA. They wouldn't even like give it a second look or a second thought or whatever, because AEW was the new hot thing in town and everyone was talking about AEW and everything, the AEW got all the headlines and whatnot because, hey, they've got Punk and they've got this person and whatnot, and now Punk's fighting with this person and whatnot and all this other stuff. TNA never had any of those issues and whatnot of people, realistically, like a few years ago, yes, they had one issue or whatever, but they never had an issue after that and the person got fired straight a freaking way, so, or whatever, after the incident. So, we're not going to go deep into that, and it wasn't a major thing, it was, something that happened and then they moved on. So, but still, anyway, yeah, I just, like, we've seen this with many wrestlers, Eddie Edwards, with Rosemary, and with a few of the talents that have actually been, with Moose, with, in fact, Joe Hendry, with, in fact, Jordan Grace, with Josh Alexander, with some of the biggest names that are in TNA right now that have, had the opportunity 3 or 4 times or even more where they've been able to go to WWE in the last 5 or 6 years or whatever it's been, maybe 7 years now, whatever it's been, that they haven't taken. Moose signed a new big deal with TNA and whatnot. Jordan Grace signed, 2 or 3 big deals with TNA, I think. And same with Josh Alexander, signed a new deal. A lot of people, when his contract was up or whatever, looked like it was up or whatever, were saying, oh, well, we'll see him in WWE next, won't we? And things like this. It comes up every now and again that people think, oh, well, we'll see them in WWE. Like it's an inevitability. Like saying, oh, yeah, I'd like to see that guy in WWE. Yeah, sure, of course. That's great. That's fine. But, like, just these people who expect it is the issue, in my opinion, or the thing that I have an issue with. I don't have an issue with people wanting someone on the roster or whatever. It's the people that just expect, oh, well, they're definitely coming here because WWE is literally the only option. No, WWE literally isn't the only option, and they're already working somewhere else. And they've been working there for a good 5 or 6 years or whatever it's been. And yet, even if WWE has shown interest for those 5 or 6 years or whatever it's been, or even longer, I don't know, nothing had amounted from that. And it's funny how Deonna Purrazzo, now I know management changed and whatnot, but still, it's funny how Deonna Purrazzo went from being in WWE and then kind of went to AEW, and then they were like, oh, okay, well, we don't really have a women's division, so, you can sit here and we might do something with you, maybe, but we don't really have anything for you, so, and then she came into TNA because they were like, hey, you know what? We've got space, we've got a women's division, and, we'll actually do something with you. And they did. And then, after AEW was like, oh man, we should have never let her, go, and whatnot, because, wow, TNA just had a bunch of sex with her because, hey, they actually, did something with her. Rather than going, oh, well, we don't know what we're going to do, if anything, and we're just going to keep sitting you in the corner, just like they're actually doing right now. Same thing. They don't really do a lot with the women that they have, really. They don't really showcase them in the way that I think TNA does. Like, TNA does as best as what they can with the women that they've got. And it is a slow and long process sometimes. and whatnot. And you do need more people in that division in a way as well, but you just need to pull the trigger on somebody in a way and just say, okay, well, let's go in this direction and let's start doing something, or let's, you know, and again, I guess they're hoping in a way for a certain wrestler, Kylan King, to come back, and I'm hoping for her to come back soon too. But yeah, like I'd love to see her come back. I can't wait to see her come back, and like I even want to see Taylor Wilde come back. I don't know what she's doing now. I think she's had a lot of issues and whatnot, coming back and whatnot. But still, I would like to see her come back because she impressed a lot of people in her return and whatnot with her new gimmick and whatnot. And she's, stuck in there with the new young talent, and she really helped put some of those people over and whatnot, which is really what they need. Like, that's how you make new stars. You can't just rely on the old stars. Yes, you've got to have those old stars and whatnot. You've got to have that star power already there, but you've got to use that star power to make new stars and to keep building stars. You can't just have the same stars forever like they did in WCW with Hulk Hogan, and they did sometimes in TNA with the old stars and whatnot. And the same thing that they did in AEW and WWE and whatnot with some of the X talent and whatnot. They kept going back to Goldberg too many times. I think that, Lashley, despite the fact that he was getting older, I think that he should have been featured way more as one of the top stars, and then slowly but surely sort of moved out of that picture, being like, okay, he is the big star right now. He's the star of now, but he's not the star of the future. And we need to slowly transition him out of that role of being the star of now to being this, the person that starts putting some of these other new stars over and whatnot, so that we can build, these other guys up to being, real stars and whatnot, and that sort of thing. Just even sometimes getting in there with a young wrestler or whatnot can really, really help that young wrestler, because it starts making the perception of saying, well, that person, whoever it is, because I just watched Eric Young versus Casey Navarro recently on Explosion. Let's go with that. I recently just watched Casey Navarro versus Eric Young. Now, Eric Young is a legend of TNA. He's not the greatest, TNA. I don't know how you put this, but he's not a person that people would think of that much. Like, he's done a lot in there, and he's actually got a very wide and diverse portfolio, so to speak, in TNA and whatnot. The thing is, it's not like a lot of people really know that, and really, like, well, TNA fans and a few people know this, but again, like you always talk, the casual wrestling fan doesn't really know hardly anything. They barely know The Rock and Stone Cold or Hulk Hogan and those guys. So again, they're not going to know somebody the likes of EY. And he did some good stuff in WWE here and there, but again, they didn't know what to do with him over there. But again, whatever. Though they did do some interesting stuff in NXT and whatnot. But yeah, whatever. Anyway, yeah, like him wrestling a young guy like Casey Navarro helps Casey Navarro, his stock go up, because it's like, well, even if he didn't win, it's like, well, that doesn't matter, because he was in there and had a fairly competitive match against one of the biggest names in TNA. Same with Frankie Kazarian. That's another reason why they've brought Frankie in there. It's hard. I think it's hard for Frankie, because it's like I think he still does really want to win that world title, but I don't really see it happening. I don't think it's impossible, but again, I don't see it happening. I think Alex Shelley was kind of a fluke in some ways. I don't want to say that he was a fluke as that, but I think as far as older wrestlers, older established TNA stars, sort of, as far as bringing them back and giving them a world title run. I think Eric Young did this a few years ago and whatnot, but realistically, that era of let's give somebody from the past the title is sort of over for the most part, I would say. I don't think that there's ever anyone that could or should perhaps from TNA's past, take that title and hold that title until the point at which somebody, beats them for that title, because that just doesn't, that's not how it works. Like, yes, you can have your legends or whatever in there and whatnot, but you can't really give them a title for the most part, because again, that needs to be, you need to lose before you're even getting to the title. So you need to lose in the contention for the title. You need to lose in the number one contendership or whatever. You need to lose, in the qualifiers and things like this, so that again you're giving that rub to somebody else that needs it more, because again their shelf life as a wrestler and whatnot is far longer. Even if it's not in TNA, their shelf life as a wrestler is, again, a lot longer. And even though I said before, like, I wouldn't mind seeing this or that from a certain legend, it's just because it's like, well, that makes some sense with the history and the context of, the circumstances that TNA was made under, or, a certain match type or a certain pay-per-view was made under. I said that I wouldn't mind seeing Rhino have one more chance at the world title, because I was like, well, he was at the first Bound for Glory and had a chance at the world title at that Bound for Glory. Now, it wasn't actually like a scheduled 1v1 match. He had to win a Monsters Ball. He had to win a battle royal or something else, I think, and then he got to face the champion and whatnot and all of this. So, but yeah, like, that was what was, and that's what happened on that night. And I do think that was a little bit short-sighted in some ways, but it was high drama in a lot of other ways. Though I do think that perhaps, like, the Monsters Ball or whatever it was, like, I guess that they scheduled it out over the night, like, and things happened in certain orders and whatnot. Like, like, the Monsters Ball, I think, happened early in the night, and then the Battle Royal happened later in the night, basically the semi-main event or whatever it was. And then he had that title opportunity, I think it was, or maybe there was something else in there, I can't remember. But anyway, point being is that some of these things are very ephemeral, and it is very difficult to sort of, say for all certainty that somebody is going to stay in TNA. And it like, some people would say, oh, well, they've got so much of a glass ceiling there in TNA, because it's like, well, they can only reach so high in popularity or awareness or whatever, because TNA is so small and their promotion and whatnot of what they do is fairly small. But I think now it's starting to turn around a lot, because again, people are turning away from AEW a bit, in some regards and whatnot. So they're starting to go, well, if I'm not watching AEW, what am I going to watch? Well, WWE's gotten a lot better than what it was, so maybe I'll tune back into that. So, but I don't know. Are people still, like, some people are still thinking, well, I still want something else. I don't really want to watch a WWE because there's something there that I don't really want to watch, or I just want to watch something else, or I want to watch WWE, or I don't mind watching WWE, but I want to watch something else too, or whatever else it is. I don't know. But again, like, TNA could take that, and needs to try to take that, opportunity that is there for them to say, hey, okay, how do we get some of these fans to check out what we're doing, and then it's really tough in some regards, in some ways. And it is everything. Like, again, people view everything via streaming way more nowadays than what they did a few years ago and whatnot. And though TV numbers and whatnot are continuing to go down, it doesn't mean that TV isn't an important thing for them to get. If they had a decent TV national and international deal that they could actually, like, broadcast and actually get in most homes in the US, Canada, and maybe Mexico, they would be in a way better position, even if it is taped. Now, if they were live, as we've sort of said, it would be way, way, way better, because again, then everyone's got to tune in live to the show, or even if it's bi-weekly live, whatever else it is, at least once a fortnight or whatever it is, you've got to tune in because it's live. You don't know what's going to happen. You don't know what's going to go down. You've got to tune in. So that's it. You can't go online and read the dirt sheets or whatever else it is and see the results and just go, okay, cool, I know what's happening now, move on with my life or whatever. Or whatnot. And that's the problem is, like, again, like, how do you make noise without having to have saying, let's have a debut every night or every other night? That's what I think AEW did wrong. They had a debut after a debut after a debut after a debut after a debut. Now, TNA did that back in the day, where they basically had debut of all these ex-WWE guys, like, and whatnot. Same with AEW, what they did a few years ago. But now the pool of ex-WWE wrestlers who have left, and whatnot, has dried up for the most part. And even though there might be a few agents left on the market or whatnot, like Bobby Lashley just, I think, left WWE, and so did the Hurt Business, aka the Beatdown Clan, and whatnot. But again, I don't know how long their contract expiry is for or whatnot. I don't see them going back to WWE over it, and Bobby's already been in TNA, so maybe he wants to go to AEW just for something different, or I don't know. We'll have to wait and see there. But again, there's no inevitability, and people who say, oh, TNA can't afford the contract of this person or that person, no. They clearly can afford it, but again, it is one of those things where AEW can obviously offer more money, and so can WWE. But to say that TNA can't afford them, no, that's not true. It's a matter of choice. And again, if you go to TNA, realistically, hey, I go there, and well, I'm one of the few people that is, on this roster that could explode, and I could get pushed, and I could get a big opportunity because, well, there's not that many other people here, so I've got a good position to shoot to the top if I, put in the effort and put in the work and whatnot, that sort of thing. If I am here and am ready to, get to the top and work to the top, like, that's what anyone who comes there could do. They did this with literally anyone and everyone. They gave them an opportunity, they gave them a push, and they gave them, the chance to be at that top level. Now, not everyone took that opportunity or could take that opportunity, but again, they gave them those opportunities, and they only worked with what they had, like what came their way. W. Morrissey came their way because no one else so he was doing some stuff on the indies, but no one else in the higher ups, of other wrestling promotions really gave him a chance. He went to TNA and said, okay, I'm going to put in the work. I'm going to be there for a few months or whatever else it is. And if they offer me a contract or whatever and we can work it out, I'll stay there for a while and we'll see how it goes. But then AEW saw that TNA, had somebody on the rise and was like, oh, well, let's offer them a contract because they actually look good and they actually look like they could do something. Let's bring them in. And he took that offer and he said, okay, well, I've got to finish up my dates or whatever else it is. And TNA said, okay, well, that means that, we'll finish you up and you'll do your dates, but from now on you're going back down the card and whatnot, because we're not going to put more effort into you if you're leaving. We need to recoup all the effort that we put into you by bringing you in and giving you wins and giving you this and that over people that are and featuring you in such a prominent role on our roster. If you're going to leave, that's what's going to happen. You've got to understand that that's the time-honored tradition, and people see it as burying people. Well, no, it's not. It's not just to bury somebody. It's to say, hey, our roster needs a rub because, hey, this person's leaving. So that's what happened with Diana Praza. People who said, oh, she's getting buried or whatever on the way out. No, she's not getting buried because, she was built so much there that it was like, well, the rest of the roster in some way suffered. And right now we're seeing that with Jordynne Grace in some ways. The rest of the roster is suffering to some degree because there's no one really on that same level. And if Jordynne does leave, well, obviously she's going to job out to a lot of people on the way out because, again, that's what the roster needs. It's not just saying, well, we're better and we're losing this person or whatever. No, we need to rebuild our roster if this person is leaving. So we need to give the people that are on our roster and are staying here or whatever the rub so that we can build those people that are on our roster that are going to stay here. That is the simple truth of that situation. You need to do the honors on your way out so that, the roster can continue and whatnot. And some people haven't done that and whatnot, but still, that is the way that, the time-honored tradition of wrestling and whatnot that people have to follow. But yeah, I don't know. It's not horrible, I guess. It's just one of those things that is a little bit of a sore point sometimes, and it is a little bit annoying to hear all these people saying, oh, well, I wonder when we're going to see them in WWE or whatever. That sort of thing. I don't like that because it's like, well, are you going to see them in WWE? You don't know. Are they coming there? You don't know. Maybe they will and maybe they won't. Maybe you'll never see them, properly in WWE. Maybe this is the only extent to which you'll see them in WWE as a crossover star. Maybe, yes, you will see them in WWE in a few years' time or whatever it is. But just saying, oh, WWE should just buy out the TNA contract or this or that or whatever, because no one cares about that, and we just want them here, whatnot. Well, talk about being selfish, that other wrestling companies exist and saying, oh, they can't have this person because we want to see them. If you really want to see them, tune into TNA, or whatever. What show are they on? Right, TNA, right. Well, even if I can't watch it on TV and whatever, I'm going to get YouTube Insiders, or get TNA Plus and watch it on there. Bam, there, done. Right, now I'm watching TNA. Bam. People say that it's that hard to watch TNA because they don't have a proper TV deal or whatever. Frickin' there's YouTube. Get it on YouTube. Or get it on the TNA Plus app. It's that easy, They don't need a TV deal when they've got friggin' YouTube and TNA Plus. Realistically, they do way better on the digital platforms and whatnot. So again, just this perception again. I don't know. But anyway, guys, I hope you guys have enjoyed this one. Hope you've found it interesting and hope you'll tune in again for another one.